Hi everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of Train with Honour TV. Today I've got an absolute golden treat for you. It is someone who knows virtually everything about what goes on inside and outside of football. It is Mr. Matthew Alexander. Matthew, welcome to the show. It's great to have you.
Thanks very much. That's an intro.
I'll try. So for the guys that don't know too much about you and your background, you just want to sort of give a brief introduction to who you are and sort of how you got into football.
Yeah, so I think it's easy to say I got into football through my dad. Obviously, my dad was Keith Alexander, and I was always going to be in and around it because I was born into it. Really, you know, we grew up with football all around us. My brother was a player. My cousin still a player. My best friends all pros. And it was only me really that never it was never good enough.
it's the best ones that sort of don't follow the trends, though, isn't it? The best don't follow the trends and they want to be something different.
Yeah, I always liked. I don't know what it was. I liked the business side of football. I always loved the business side and what happened behind closed doors, so to speak. And I ended up being, working in the pro game as a head of player recruitment. I went into commercial. I was an agent for a while. I was the chief executive of a WSL 1 team, and general manager of a men's team as well in League One. So yeah, I've had a real varied view of football from young child all the way through to an old man.
Oh man, that's a good sort of brief intro to what you're doing and everything. So, sort of talking very briefly about, with your dad being such a well-known manager in the game and well-respected in with the likes of Macclesfield amongst other teams and that, did you almost feel a bit of a pressure to sort of follow in your dad's footsteps and make it in the game, or was there any sort of external pressure on you to sort of succeed, or?
I think the only pressure was myself. I put it on myself. I never thought I would get involved in football at a young age because I cleaned cars. I was a car salesman. I did all of that sort of stuff. So I was never. It was not something that was actively in my mind. But then when it got it opened up a little bit, I felt. I could feel being part of it. I loved it. And my dad always said to me, he was not, he wasn't one of these pushy parents, to be fair. He was more along the lines of, listen, whatever you do, I'll support you, but just try and do whatever you do good, do it well. And work hard. The thing that I would take from my old man was a real big work ethic. I left school with no real qualifications. I did my GCSEs and done my media studies and things like that. But I always wanted to work harder than the other person. So that got me into those positions. And when I ended up at Bradford City, I basically just sent a letter out to all the clubs, and Bradford were the only one that came back to me. I wanted to be a scout. That's what I wanted to be. And I focused quite heavily on being a scout. Sorry.
That's all right. And, it's not corona, is it?
Yeah. It's not. I had it in March, I was put real with it. Yeah, I was put real with it.
No way.
It wasn't nice, I'll give you that. But yeah, so I ended up at Bradford. I got a response from a guy called Archie Christie, who was the head of recruitment there at the time. And Archie was a special guy. I mean, unfortunately, he passed away now. But there was never a dull moment at Bradford, and I learned a lot. I worked quite closely with the manager then, Peter Jackson. I learned loads off him, Colin Calderwood, them sort of people. And I worked with the under-21s as well. So I was lucky enough to work with players such as Nakhi Wells, and I just learned every single day. But it meant, I live in Lincoln, so I had to go to Bradford 3 times a week, and then which is 2 hours up the A1, and matches as well. So it really did take up all of my time, and then I didn't mind that because I was learning quite a lot. And then I I did really well out of it. I think well, they offered me another contract, so that told you that I did well enough. But I did that first year at Bradford for nothing. So I said to them I would work for absolutely nothing if you guys will give me the opportunity. And I'll work as hard, if not harder, than anybody else in the business if you give me that opportunity. And they did. And I can't really complain. It was a really fun time, and I learned my trade really, really well. And then ended up at Knox County.
It just goes to prove, doesn't it, that if you're willing to put the effort in, and you're willing to sort of put yourself in front of absolutely everyone and put in the hard graft, because let's face it, football's a really, really hard industry to get into. And when as soon as you're in, the minute you go out, it's really hard to get back in. And I think this is where we look at a lot of we look at what's happened with all the players that got released over the summer. There's still a good one of those players, whether it's because of the COVID restrictions or whatever it is, that have been unable to get back in the game. But then I suppose the question then is, what are they doing to get themselves back into the game? But it's a great example that, you've gone to Bradford, you've built up some great relationships with the guys there, and, you've almost given up your day, and to an extent, you've given up your life to an extent and devoted it for the club, just so that you can progress. And I think that's a really important take home for the listeners, that you really have got to, you can't expect people to do it for you. You've really got to, think outside the box and be uncomfortable, haven't you, really, to progress. And
it's definitely not a 9-to-5 job. It's an all-consuming job if you're in football. I mean, I've spoken to a lot of people now that I still know in the game, and they understand that's exactly what it is. It consumes your whole life. And when you look at people like my dad, I can't remember him being around that much as a kid, because that's just what football was, New Year's Day, Christmas Day, because they'll be playing away on a Boxing Day somewhere, birthdays, things like that. They were just times that you didn't expect to see him around. So when it's a really difficult one, because if you have to do what you love. If you love football, then you'll never work a day. It's a fantastic industry to be in. There's ups and downs, don't get me wrong, but when you win, when you win a game, or I was head of under-21 for a little while as well, and when we won games, there's no other feeling like it. It was fantastic. The boys on the bus on the way back, and it was just outstanding. I've been really, really lucky to say that I've worked with some fantastic human beings. Do you know what I mean? Not just footballers, but human beings. The young lads I work with at Knox County, some of them now are playing at a good level. Curtis Thompson at Wickham, for instance. These players, they were the reason I went in. And that sounds a bit cheesy, but they're genuinely
true, though, isn't it?
I loved every single one of them like a brother. And I think they saw me more as a father than a brother. You know what I mean? But they were just fantastic kids. I'd take them out. We'd have if they won games, we'd have some food together. And I've spent a lot of time with these lads, knowing them, their families, and then we had people come in from all over the world. So we had 2 Australian kids that came in. They were twins, and they were making the way around Europe by going to clubs, getting paid, and then moving up to different clubs and just finding cities in Europe to go to. And they came to us, they trained. We didn't pay them, to be fair, because they came on trial. And I just learned so much from these sort of lads. We had players coming from Germany at the time, everywhere. It was really, really good. But then, the whole system at Knox County at the time, the under-21s, we had a manager there called Chris Kiwamia at the time. He ended up taking over the first team. I saw players get better on a daily basis with Chris Kiwamia. He made players, honestly, you could just, every day you go into training and you could see them getting better. And I still say to this day, if he was still in the under-21s, there would have been players coming through so quickly. he was fantastic. Yeah, he was a great person to work with.
God, it is getting the right group around you, isn't it? And, you know, because obviously if you've got that environment around you, you've got the right people, the right networks, then obviously you're going to thrive, aren't you? And, you know, like you say,
you have to learn as well. You know, I learned from people like, you know, Mick Jones and, you know, Martin Allen. You know, me and Martin Allen, we never really saw eye to eye on a daily basis. You know, I wasn't his head of recruitment. You know, I wasn't.
Is he as mad as everyone makes out?
Oh yeah. He was. You know what? He was, and because I wasn't his person, the person he wanted in that position, he made things difficult for me. I'm not going to lie. But then when I look back on it, I look at some of the things that I did at the time, and databases, creating databases on players. It made me a lot better when it came to understanding players and their positions and where they are right now. What Martin Allen used to make me do, he wanted to know every single player that was on loan from the Premier League to League One, League Two, the Conference, every game that they played, every minute that they played, their characteristics, everything basically. And that's not an easy job. You know, especially back then when we weren't paying for things like Y-Scout and stuff. So you had to use your network a little bit. It wasn't easy at all. And at the time when he's telling me to go to Bognor Regis on a Tuesday night just to see what they've got. Yeah. You know, it was really difficult. You know, I really struggled with it. I struggled with it mentally as well because I'd worked hard to get to that position and I felt like I was unwanted. But at the end of the day, you know, I rang him. I actually rang Martin Allen maybe a few years ago now and actually said to him, you know, I genuinely did learn a lot off you. And I thank you for that. But there were some fantastic managers that we had there. You know, they're all good people. I just think that with football in the UK, it's very difficult from a head of recruitment's point of view to be put in a position where you're not that manager's person. Yeah. You know, it's really, really difficult. You have to create that trust. And we got through quite a few managers at Knox County. So just as you became, you know, close to a manager, you would be gone. And that was, you know, that was the story of my tenure there, really, as a head of recruitment. Although we did bring in some good players, you know. I brought in Enda Stevens, the kid that was at Aston Villa. He's now at Sheffield United. We brought him in. I was head of recruitment when we brought in Jack Grealish, Callum McGregor. I mean, I'm not going to take full credit for those. That was Mick Jones. You know, Mick Jones, one of the most, what do I want to say, knowledgeable people in football. You know, Mick Jones was fantastic. Yeah, he was a real encyclopedia of knowledge when it came to players.
That's an interesting one, reference Grealish, because obviously a lot of people just relate him to Aston Villa, don't they? Because they all think that he's come all the way through the ranks of Villa. And
well, we were the only club that he went on loan to in his whole career.
Oh, wow.
You know, Knox County was the one. He came to us when he was 17, I think. And I spent some time with him. I had an office right under the stadium. It was right out the way, right at the back, dingy office. When it used to rain, my feet would splash because the water would come down and it would be underneath my desk. It was terrible. But we called it the Office of Positivity. So all of the players would come in and, Matty, I'm not having a great time at the minute. I'd say, sit down, you know. And I had Jack in there a couple of times, you know, sat down with him, chatted to him, you know. And sometimes that's all they needed. The players just needed to go into the Office of Positivity, get out of the way, you know, and come and, you know, I mean, it stunk. It was damp. It wasn't a nice place. There was no windows. But you know what? I loved it. I loved it. I slept in there a couple of times, you know, when managers needed like match reports on the desk early the next morning. And a match report would take, you know, 3-4 hours to do a good one. So there was a couple of occasions when I slept in there as well. I slept on my desk.
God, that's dedication, is that?
Well, you know, you had to do it, and I just didn't want anybody. You know, the last thing I don't want anybody saying I wasn't working hard enough. So I just tried to work as hard as I possibly could. Listen, there's lots. You're never gonna please everybody in football, you know, and that's something now I wish I knew that back then, you know, because I did try to please everybody. And I think people in my circle that know me they know that that's what I do. You know, I want to make people happy. I want to try and be the best that I can possibly be. And I wish I'd have known now what I've known then what I know now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that's the beauty of it, isn't it? Life is there for learning, and you know, a lot of people will look at it and think, do you know what? You know, it was really bad time, and they can get quite low about it. But you know, with the right mindset, and you know, you've done quite a lot at the minute. You know, you've reflected, you've looked back, and you thought, you know what? I have actually, you know, although it wasn't the great at the time, would I have done anything differently? Yeah, probably would. But you know, I think we're all the same, aren't we? Really?
Yeah. And you know, you just got to learn. That's all you've got. That's all you can do with, especially in football. You're never going to know everything, and unfortunately in football, there's it's ego driven. Do you know what I mean? So you're never going to be able to please people. You're never going to be able to do everything. And that's exactly what I try to do sometimes. And unfortunately, that did water down some of the other things I was trying to do. But by the time I got to, I left as head of recruitment, and I had a few months out. And then a position came open in commercial. Well, I had a background in commercial collaborations and brand collaborations, because I'd worked on boot deals when I was a player representative. It was my thing. It was what I enjoyed doing. So I did boot deals for, you know, some Brazilian footballer, De Nielsen, that was at Arsenal at the time. Yeah, I was involved in his boot deal. And you know, with brands such as Puma, I learned how to structure high-end brand collaborations. So I thought I could do this in the commercial side to Knox. And I went in and I tried to create some relationships and repair and build relationships with big companies. Because in Nottingham, we had some fantastic companies like Experian, for instance. Yeah. They are such a forward-thinking company. So we were really lucky. I managed to get them in, and I convinced the owner at the time to give them a load of free tickets, because we weren't getting many people in at the time. So I thought, let's get some free tickets to Experian, and then we can start building that relationship and mainly, you know, try and move forward. And we had a great time. We got a load. The tickets went out to kids that were from underprivileged families and that are in hardships, and we created a menu for them. It was just a fantastic thing. And Experian, to be fair to Experian, they paid for the lot.
That's brilliant. It's great when you build these communities. You know, you never know what it starts, do you? It is
no. And then we moved it on to when I got into the women's side. I mean, I'll be honest. I loved it. It was fantastic. The women's football. The girls were all brilliant, and you know, we were at the elite level. We were playing, you know, Manchester City, Liverpool, Arsenal. I took over from a guy called Luke Negus-Hill, who had been there for a long time. So it was a difficult transition. But I was given 3 things to do, and by the owner, because if I'm really honest, I'd been at him for ages to make me the men's CEO, because I felt that I could do that as well. I was so confident. And he gave me 3 things to do, and one of them was to rebuild relationships with the FA. And front of shirt sponsor. We needed a front of shirt sponsor, and to sign a marquee player. And I did all 3. So I was really pleased with that. You know, we'd agreed to have Showcase Cinemas, which was the first time the club had ever had a front of shirt sponsor that wasn't one of the owners' companies. We signed Rachel Yankee, who at the time, all right, she was, you know, coming towards the end of her career, but she was the biggest name in women's football. We signed her on loan, and we organised the England qualifying game at Meadow Lane, 10,000 people there. Wow. You know, for the first time in 106 years, a senior game had been at Meadow Lane. Yeah, wow. So we did a really good job there. There was a guy that used to work with me called Matt Rowland. He was fantastic. I mean, he just knew the women's side inside out. So he was integral to making me succeed. Yeah. But you know, I left at the end of the year. The owner was selling the club, and he said, "Look, do you want to stay on or do you want to go?" And I couldn't see a way forward. You know, I couldn't see all of the ideas that I had, all of the fantastic people that we wanted to bring in and to build. I just didn't see any way forward. And it was out of all of the things that I've done and all of the things that I've left, that was by far the most difficult, because my daughter loved it. My daughter came to all the games with me. I loved working with the girls. And, you know, sometimes you look at things and you have to think what's best for you and your family.
Of course, yeah.
And for me, I needed another challenge, because I just didn't think any of the points that I had planned for the next 12 months would get done. And it proved that was the correct thing, because the new owner wound it up after, 6-7 months.
It's quite scary, that, because obviously Knox County Ladies are probably one of the biggest teams within the Women's Super League.
Well, they were, they were, they were, and just to wind it up, it's one of them. I think it was in the press. I mean, you can only read in the press. I don't know what happened, but you can read in the press that the cost of it was untenable. You knew that when you bought it, to be honest.
Yeah, with women's football, there is no money in it at all. I mean, I've had
absolutely not. And we had got the bills down, but I mean, it wound up about a year after I left, I think. And by the time I left, the bills had already gone downwards. And that's one of the things we had to do. I had to sell our best player. We had to manage it quite a lot, but we had a bit of money coming in from Showcase Cinemas and other companies that we'd done some deals with. But you know exactly when you buy something like that, you know what the costs are. You don't just buy it. You don't just go down to your local shop and say, "Yeah, I'll buy a football club." And, it doesn't happen.
Due diligence, isn't it? Which is, which unfortunately we've seen with Macclesfield and with Bury of the last sort of year or two. Owners go in and probably haven't done the research, or the previous owners haven't done the research, because they want a quick sale and they just think, you know what, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to buy it. Of course, I've got all the money in the bank, but then you see what's happened to Mac lately, and they've just gone absolutely downhill. And and I suppose with Macclesfield, it's obviously got quite a close connection with yourself. And
well, I spoke to one of the I still keep in touch with some of the people there. And one of the ladies is called Julie Briggs. She's been a secretary there for years. One of my favourite people, Julie. Yeah. She's just amazing. And she always used to help me out whenever I needed anything. Even when Dad was there, I'd ring her up, Jules, I need help with this. Can you find me this? And she would do it, straight off. Even when I was at other clubs, she would help me after my dad died. If I needed a fixture list or something and my club wouldn't pay for it, she would go online and find. She was just an amazing human being. And I spoke to Julie recently, and it's devastating what's happened to Macclesfield. But I'm hoping, the new guy that's got it will do what's needed to bring it back to where it should be, because the people in that club are just fantastic. They really are. And it's one of the things, I haven't been back as much as what I should have done, really. And I'd said to Julie when I spoke to her a couple of weeks ago, I'm going to come and take her for lunch at some point, because I do miss it. Yeah, it was a good club. But it has those memories. The last time I went there, I think I was delivering my dad's car back after he died. So it has this sort of bittersweet feeling for me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's almost hard. It's almost hard, I guess, isn't it? Because there's so many good memories that when you're there, and it's
and I just remember delivering his car back and thinking, I never want to come here again. Do you know what I mean? It was a weird feeling. But now, with time heals everything, doesn't it? I suppose.
100%. 100%.
And I can't wait to take Julie out. To be fair, I definitely will be doing that.
That sounds pretty awesome. Does that? So, if you don't mind, we just touch a little bit on sort of like the player recruitment side. I mean, we sort of briefly spoke beforehand about like LinkedIn, and with us both being involved in football, we're constantly getting bombarded with, can you get me a trial here? Can you get me a trial there? And what would your advice and guidance sort of be for any of these guys that are? I suppose we could sort of touch upon the agents or scouting area element of it. What would your advice be for the guys that are in a non-EU country? Because of course, if you haven't got a European passport, it's really hard to get into the EFL or even into the UK, isn't it, for a trial? What would be your advice and guidance for these guys to get themselves in the shop window if they haven't got an agent and they want to really plug on?
It's a real tough one, that is, because as I've said, I get, even now, and I haven't worked at a professional football club for a long time, and even now I get messages into my inbox, can you help me, this, that. I don't know. I'm a big fan of, just play. Doesn't matter where you are, doesn't matter what league, what level, just play 90 minutes of football consistently. And if you're good enough, somebody will see you.
Yeah.
I find it really difficult at the minute. I see players these days that contact me, and they haven't played. And I look at every single one, by the way. I'm just that sort of person. I will look at every single one that contacts me. I did it when I was head of recruitment, and I'll still do it now.
It's that bug, isn't it? It's because you want to help somebody. It's like, I know what needs doing, but
But then I see on some of the CVs they haven't played for 2 years.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, how can you expect to come to another country and play if you haven't played for 2 years in your own country? I really believe it now. It's even more difficult than ever because with the COVID restrictions and stuff, there's young players in this country that can't get trials in this country. So it's very difficult to just turn up and play football.
Yeah.
But I would say to them, just play. Doesn't matter where you play, doesn't matter when you play. Anybody that's playing football consistently and has a real interest in getting better will do exactly that. They'll get better, they'll learn and match fitness and match readiness. You can't teach that. You can't train it. You just got to play, and I think if you're wanting to move countries and you're wanting to change your life through football, try and do it by playing more in the country that you're in.
Yeah, I 100% agree. 100% agree. And I suppose it's getting yourself out there in terms of, recording videos and getting your own YouTube channel and utilising your platforms, isn't it?
Absolutely. Be positive, be optimistic, try, because if you want something, you're going to have to work really hard for it, especially in football. My dad at the time, when he played, he was told as a kid he would, he had braces on his legs. So he was told that he wouldn't run, let alone kick a football. And he ended up having a 20-year professional career out of it. So,
there's no better feeling than proving doubters wrong, is there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, especially with players, you have to learn to deal with rejection because you're going to get told you're not good enough over and over again. That's a given in professional football. Every footballer I know, give or take maybe 2 or 3, have been released or told they're not good enough at some point in their life.
Yeah.
So being, not being used to rejection, but being used to dealing with it and going, you know what, that's your opinion. Football's a game of opinions.
Yeah.
I know what I can bring and start again. It's about regenerating yourself every single time. And if you can keep doing that, then there's you will do well out of football. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. Just be consistent.
Well, this is it. And again, I suppose it's like we spoke about earlier in terms of, your face isn't going to fit necessarily with every person. And it's getting that right. It is getting that right fit, isn't it? And,
it is. It's just, just remember, as I say, football's a game of opinions. Yeah. Everybody's got one. They're all going to, some people are like you, some people won't. And the older I get now, I realise that's a really important thing to take from the game. Because you're sometimes, as I say, maybe more often than not, people are not going to like you. And I think I'm a likable person. I get on well with everybody.
Yeah.
But there's still people in football that will turn around and say, you know what, he's a dickhead. That's just what happens.
Well, I've only known you about an hour, and I think you're great. So having a good conversation, and it's great.
I try, I do try, but it's I think moving forward in life now, I'm at a position where I'm more comfortable in myself. Yeah. I'm more confident in my own opinions and stuff. So I think if I was in a position now where I was at a football club, I would probably be a better person to have around that football club as well.
Yeah, that sounds great. So now obviously we've been into football. We've done the tireless hours and everything like that. And one of the big things that we sort of touched upon indirectly was the mental health element. And
yeah,
this is something that you're quite involved in at the moment, Matthew, isn't it? Just tell us a bit about how you become an ambassador for the company you're with at the moment.
Right. So
the work they do.
Yeah, I'm an ambassador for mental health first aid, and it's a real UK, and it's a new thing for me because it's something that's really close to my heart. Do you know what I mean? I've worked around footballers for a lot of my life. I've seen it from all different angles that how mental health can affect you. My mum was in intelligence for 20 years, and when she left, it's easy to see how mental health, how it affected her and what she saw on a daily basis. So I decided that I wanted to help people a little bit more. I think all I've done over the years is take, and I think it's time to start trying to give a little bit back. So I contacted quite a few mental health charities and said, look, I have a really good network. I think I would be fantastic as not as an ambassador, maybe I'm more like a non-exec role or something along them sort of lines. And Mental Health First Aid came back to me and we spoke about it and my ideas in helping young players, especially young footballers, deal with rejection, deal with leaving and exit routes and things like that. They appointed me as an ambassador, which I'm really excited about. It's, they do a lot. The whole goal is to have at least 1 in 10 people in the UK trained in mental health and trained in dealing with mental health issues. And I want to be part of that. I really do. We also have it sounds really, really crazy. We have an Instagram page, which I started it, and I actually run it now with a friend of mine called Frankie Fry, who is Barry's son, believe it or not.
Oh,
he's like he's one of my best friends, Frankie. I've known him for years. And it's just on positive, little positive messages every morning. It's called the Rookie Buddha. And we're gonna push it out. We're gonna push it out over next year. And all we do is put a positive message on every single day. And it started off just being, me, a few others, a couple of my football friends, things like that. And now it's, we've got all sorts of people on it. We've got singers, we've got Strictly Come Dancing dancers that use it, all sorts of people. And we've got about nearly 1,000 people now that follow it.
That's quality.
And it's just from putting we just wanted to make like small steps, and I think sometimes in life, I've been this exact person. I'll get into something and that's it. I have to, I wanted to get fit, so I went and kitted out my whole gym in my garage, TV, the lot. I used it about 3 times and that was the end of it,
We're all guilty, mate, of that.
I tend to jump in, but what I've decided with the mental health thing and positive thinking and just being optimistic on life is just the little smallest thing in the morning can have a real big effect on 1-2 people. That's at least it helps somebody. And I think if you can get up in the morning and you're feeling a little bit grey, you get on your phone and it's just a positive message there. You never know, it might help people, it might not, but we've seen recently that just those small steps every single day, if you are drinking, a bottle of wine a night, drink half a bottle, just slow it down, and try to see the good in everything. And that's what we're doing now with the Rookie Buddha. We're gonna push it out and we're gonna really try and help people through positive messages. So anything, mental health, anything like that, I'm really into it at the minute. Really am.
That sounds absolutely brilliant. So what we'll do is we'll definitely stick the link to that in the
put it on
the credits below, and obviously hopefully grow it for.
Yeah,
we'll get another 1,000, but we'll see.
You'll see some of the people that redo it, like Alexandra Burke, the singer. She puts it on her stories all the time, and some of the Strictly dancers as well. They all do it, and awesome. Footballers like Paul Anderson, he's on it all the time as well. So there's some really, really cool people that are just starting to see how positive messages and just a little positive touch to your morning can have a big effect on your day.
100%. Is it on Facebook as well, or is it just?
No, it's just Instagram at the minute. Yeah, just Instagram, because I'll be honest, I didn't know how to do it on everything else.
Like we say, slowly, isn't it?
Oh yeah, small steps to a large life. That's what we say.
Oh, yeah. Brilliant! That sounds great. So what are you up to these days then? So obviously you've had a massive career in football. You had doing loads of great work with mental health.
Yeah.
I know obviously you've gone into quite something completely away from the game now, isn't it? And so,
yeah, well, I've always enjoyed a bit of variety. You know, even when I did my football stuff, you know, I wanted to work and do all the things and help other people. And everyone always used to say to me, Matt, why don't you just focus on one thing? You know, if you focus on it, you've proven that when you focus on something, you can really push it forward. And
yeah.
It's been a big problem of mine throughout my life. You know, I started off, you know, my background is in computers, so I'm an Apple qualified technician, Microsoft qualified technician, and all of that. But
yeah,
I think my mind sometimes can be quite binary in the way that it works. So, you know, I either love something or I hate something. So I tend to go from one thing to another thing quite a lot. And at the minute, I set up a company early on in the year with a friend of mine, and it's high-end air purification systems for houses and for companies and stuff like that. And to be honest, we couldn't have picked a better time, really, because people's understanding of indoor air quality is a lot better now than it ever has been with COVID and all this sort of stuff. So it's really gone on well. It's started, we called Intratech Limited. And it's doing all right. We use distributors to sell the products. And I just enjoy it because, again, you know, it's helping people. Don't get me wrong, you know, you want to earn some money out of it, else you can't afford to pay the bills. But yeah, it's really, really good. I'm a shareholder in another company called Shoe Lab, which is it's a shoe restoration company. So what it does, they basically, I don't know if you've seen it, it's at the minute it's gone national now, so it's really doing quite well. Yeah. But they take your old battered shoes and they completely renovate them, and they make them regenerate them, and they make them look like new.
Wow.
And honestly, some of the things they do with these shoes, some of the guys in the shops and how they clean them, it was another big thing of mine, because I feel like I'm talking like I'm some sort of, you know, world war saving warrior or something, but I'm not.
Do you know what? It's not a bad thing. It just shows how diverse you are in terms of.
Yeah, it's a bit of everything.
Turn your hand to anything, and it's a great quality, because obviously the more you can adapt. So.
The older I get, I think it is a big quality. But like with Shoe Lab, it was all about single use. You know, I don't like the idea of buying a pair of trainers, using them, and getting them mucky and throwing them away or something. You know, after a while, I just didn't like the thought of that. And a lot of people these days, we live in an instant society, and we live in a single-use society. So if we set up the company to basically try to make people use this stuff a little bit more, you know, and get more usage out of it. And again, it's had some fantastic, you know, people using it now. A lot of the Premier League footballers use it. We've had DJs, all sorts of real cool people again using the service, and it's a national service now, so it goes in. I mean, it's not reinventing the wheel. There's other people that do it, but I genuinely believe that Shoe Lab are the best. You know, I really do. And it all started from me going to a shop where these two guys were working in, because I wanted my trainers doing, and they did it, and I was like, listen, this is unbelievable. I can't believe it. I've got some new trainers again.
Opportunities there.
Yeah. So I said to them, look, I want to buy the franchise. I want to buy a franchise for Nottingham.
Wow.
And they were like, well, it's not a franchise, it's our own company. And I was like, yeah, this is brilliant. So I got a friend of mine to get some investment for it, and we got a big company out of London to invest in it, and now they're a national company.
That's
doing really, really
amazing.
Well.
But I get the big key that I think that seems to keep coming out and again is, if you really want something that badly, you bust the gut and you get it, and you don't rest on your laurels. You've got an idea. It's not going to come straight away, and it's not going to happen overnight. But if you want it, you source what you need, don't you?
Yeah, I'm one of them sort of people. We weren't blessed with loads of money growing up. Obviously, my dad was a Division 4 footballer, so we weren't blessed with lots and lots of money. So and my mum and my mum's side of the family, they've always been very frugal with the money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They my gran, bless her, she would go out and get a chicken on a Monday. By Thursday, we're having chicken pie. Do you know what I mean? It's just she would just consistently make amazing food out of nothing.
Awesome.
There's a part of me that likes to get the most out of something.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I don't like. I do make some silly purchases every now and again, but I'm always very aware that that this throwaway society we live in is not sustainable. So I try to help by doing other things. That's just me. I've always been that sort of person that just likes. I like variety. I like trying different things, and I've fixed computers for people on my estate. I fix them in the evenings because I think that's something that helps me relax as well.
Yeah.
I tend to relax by fixing computers, and I think there's a reason for that, and I think that's because, again, like I say, my mind's quite binary with the way that I think.
Yeah.
A computer works or it doesn't work. You can troubleshoot a computer and then make it work. So I think that is something that's really good for my mind and how I like to relax. Yeah.
That is pretty cool. There's always something happening.
Oh yeah. It's never quiet in my life. Definitely not. I've got a 12-year-old daughter as well, so she keeps me very busy. Yeah, very busy.
Sure.
Just hitting teenage years, so it's just starting to be a little bit.
Mate, you're gonna have to start training your daughter up to help you out with all these ventures and that now.
She does. What I do is every now and again, when I've got some computers that need the operating systems put on them, I get her to do it, so she can do it all at night.
That is. Hey, Matthew, I've absolutely loved this chat. It's been absolutely fantastic. And,
it's no problem. It's great.
So I really appreciate your time. There's been some fantastic stories, and the take homes, mate, on this has been absolutely fantastic. And
cool.
For those guys that want to get to know you a bit more and sort of connect and reach out to you, where's the best place to find you?
LinkedIn. LinkedIn's probably the best place to get me. Get me on LinkedIn. I have an active profile on there. So yeah, just reach out and say hi. I'm quite an approachable person, I think. So yeah, I'll always say hello.
Nah, that sounds brilliant. Well, I've really appreciated it. I wish you well with all the events, and hopefully we'll have a catch up soon. It's been
100%. Yeah, let's do that.
It's been brilliant. Thanks very much. And guys, if you haven't, make sure you do follow the links and reach out to Matthew. As you can see, he's an absolutely top guy. And,
Thanks.
And we'll see you soon.
Cheers.